In this video, I survived 100 days in hardcore Terraria, and this is how I did it. As many people know, Terraria is a very hard game, so I will be playing on the easiest difficulty to increase my chances of success, but still in hardcore mode, so if I die, it's over. I end up starting from nothing to creating one of the best worlds I've ever made, maybe even the best. So strap in as we go on this amazing adventure, starting with day 1. As I spawned in, I took a look at my surroundings, instantly spotting the guide, an NPC who could help me on my journey if need be, by means of giving me hints on what to do next, and helping me remember crafting recipes, which is probably the only thing I use him for. I began chopping trees and collecting some nearby lead ore. I also gathered plenty of stone as to make a furnace, along with a bow and arrow which I combined with torches to make flaming arrows. These slimes that keep bouncing around drop gel, which is used to make torches in this game. One of the flaming arrows I shot revealed a large vein of lead right below me, which I instantly began to mine. The more ores I could find on the surface, the better, because caves are hellish in this game, especially in the early game. Next to this vein were some massive trees with hollow trunks leading down into secret chest rooms, which I looted to get some decent starting items. One of the trunks made its way into a small little cave with even more resources, which I liked. Once out, the sun was beginning to set already, so I had to find a place to call home fast. I found a desert on my way, which I began to cross, shooting down the vultures with my new bow. Pretty much everything in this game is hostile, by the way. Even the rabbits if the conditions are right. After I crossed the desert, I found the perfect place to call home. More giant trees at the edge of a grand chasm. I dug my way in and began to set up shop, using some ropes and platforms to make my way across to the other branches. The music changed as night fell, and I began to settle in by placing my furnace and smelting all my lead ore into 42 bars, which is actually an insane amount for the first day. With this lead, I crafted several things, but most notably I crafted an anvil. This would help me craft some of the stronger tools in the game for quite a long time. But then I remembered the guide. He was just standing out in the wilderness all alone. So I decided to use the wood wands I had gathered from the tree trunks to make him a small home in the branches. For NPCs to move into these homes, the room has to have a light source, a chair, a table, and background walls. So once I finished, I placed the guide's banner inside, meaning he now owned this home. He may trip while walking on literal leaves from time to time, but he'll be fine for now. Right after that, I dug to the other side of the tree and built another room. If you have vacant rooms, eventually they will become occupied by even more NPCs once you attain certain objects or do certain things. Once I finished that, I headed down into the trunk, which once again opened up into another small cave with more lead. As the music changed once again, I relished in the fact that I had survived the first night, only 99 more to go. I decided to dig to the chasm from the bottom of the cave, for whatever reason. I don't really know why I did this myself. Once I made it to the surface, I explored my land a bit more, finding another wooden chest room. The next thing I found was this world's jungle biome. Each world only has one jungle in it, so it was pretty convenient that my new place sat right next door to it. These places have some of the best loot and structures imaginable in this game. I'm not even kidding. While exploring, however, a message popped up in chat that the merchant NPC had moved in. He sold many things like torches, potions, and even a piggy bank. In this game, you get coins from killing enemies, which serves as currency with these dudes. And then I began to use some of my newfound lead to make a chest plate made of lead. In real life, this thing probably weighs a literal ton. It would probably kill you from lead poisoning, but details. Once I made the chest plate, I began exploring to the east of spawn to see what was there. Not too far from the spawn point, I found the corruption biome. Each world has multiple corruption biomes in it, and once you get to a certain stage in the game, this toxic looking biome spreads like wildfire, and if you aren't careful, it can consume your entire world. Right now though, all it did was spawn horrible enemies who tried to eat me while I mined another massive lead vein. I knew I was not yet ready for the corruption, so I retreated back to spawn using a recall potion, and walked back to my new treehouse thing. Using the lead I had gathered, I crafted the entire armor set, meaning I now took less damage from pretty much everything and have massive lead poisoning. This basically meant I was now strong enough to venture into the caves. The trunk already dug down quite deep into my world, so I used it as the beginnings of a hellevator, a term used by Terrarians to basically describe a hole to hell. In Minecraft, you never dig straight down, but in this game, it's fine, mostly. As I went, I slowly found caves and explored them for loot, while also being very careful of traps. Traps in the early game are a hardcore player's worst enemy. If I had hit any of them, I would have been blasted to a pulp. Day 3 rolled around and I was still in the caves. I kept digging down until I found a spider's nest, which I decided meant that I was done mining for now. I went back up where I then smelted my new ores and crafted new things. I then began constructing more NPC homes. There are quite a lot of NPCs in this game, and they each need a home, so the sooner I made some of them, the better. Literally, as I was finishing, the demolitionist arrived, a dwarf who sold explosives that would prove very useful to me in this world. Speaking of the explosives being useful, I got a ton of them and headed down to the corruption biome again. In the corruption, there are these chasms that lead to long tunnels filled with shadow orbs, and smashing these shadow orbs would drop me useful things. My pick wasn't strong enough to mine through the ebon stone, so I used bombs. When I smashed this, the orb gave me a musket and 100 bullets. This meant two things. I now had a gun that was relatively strong, and now the arms dealer can move in and sell me, well, arms. Weapon arms. Not wait, how do I say? He sold me gun stuff. Yeah. After returning home, I headed down into the mines again, where I used the bombs to help me find a life crystal. These things are pretty rare, and they permanently increase your maximum life by 20 hit points until you reach 400. In other words, they're absolutely essential for hardcore players. As night fell, I returned to the surface, crafted even better tools, and began to work on my house in this tree. I began by digging out a huge area in the tree for room, and as day 5 came around, I returned to the tree after collecting more wood near spawn to add a bed, along with chests and other useful crafting stations. I used this living loom to create background walls that look just like the tree. That way I could make it look like I was actually living in the leaves. I then began sorting out my items early. In Terraria, if your items aren't sorted, you're a dead man. The amount of items in this game is kind of ridiculous. As night fell, I began to add even more NPC homes to this massive treehouse. I had plans to build bigger and better things in the future, but for now, this was good enough. I continued the trend of making it look like these rooms were sitting in the leaves, and as the sun rose on day 6, I had finished, and I headed back down into the mines where I discovered a dart trap. I mined it, but I did not throw it away. This is because in this game, when you hold a mechanical item in your hand, you can see all the hidden wires of any trap. That meant if I wanted to check if a cave was safe to enter, all I had to do was hold a dart trap to see if there were any wires. This, admittedly, is not my first attempt at this, and 2 of my attempts ended due to traps one-shotting me, so making sure that wouldn't happen again would help greatly. Now this next sentence I'll say will sound really weird if you don't play this game. A magical pink fairy appeared and guided me to another heart crystal. This game is weird. As the night continued, I headed to the bottom of the chasm next to my treehouse and began fishing in a lake. I don't enjoy fishing in any game, but in Terraria it's kind of important for potions. On day 7 I entered the jungle. I wanted to explore the surface of my world, so eventually I would have to cross this. Thankfully I was protected enough by this point to not die, and once I made it to the other side, I found another massive lead vein. By this point I had crafted a grappling hook, which increased my mobility tenfold. Grappling hooks are a must-have. After walking for a little while longer, I reached the ocean, which marked the edge of my world, but I knew that chests sometimes sat at the bottom of the ocean floor, so I tried to reach it in time. Thankfully I had recall potions, otherwise I probably would have drowned, but it wasn't really worth going down, I'll be honest. Next up was the eastern side. In the dead of night, I began to slowly cross the corruption, killing all the fools with my new musket. Eventually I made it to an ice biome and more giant trees. The ice biome wasn't really useful, so I just kind of passed it. After traveling through another corruption and another desert, I found the dungeon. This building, while small on the outside, is actually a massive labyrinth of death and loot. I had to be careful not to enter it though, because if you go too deep into this building without defeating Skeletron, its guardian boss, you get attacked by a massive skull known as the Dungeon Guardian. This thing instantly kills you, always, no matter how strong you are. So I walked by it. Very soon after that, I reached the Eastern Ocean, meaning I had explored the entire surface. And on that night, I was finally prepared enough to fight the first Terraria boss, the Eye of Cthulhu. What the f? The Eye of Cthulhu. During my adventures, I had found a suspicious-looking eye, which when used at night, summons the boss. After preparing with several potions, I used the eye and began to fight. My main weapons would be ranged as they did the most damage. At this point, I didn't have very much life, so I still had to be careful not to get too close. The goal is to kill the little eyes that shoots out, as these can sometimes drop little hearts which heal me. Killing the Eye of Cthulhu is quite simple. So in under a minute, I had slayed the boss and gathered the loot that dropped in the form of Demonite ore, one of the stronger ores before Hardmode. I used these ores to craft a sword called Light's Bane, along with an axe called War Axe of the Night. I've never really liked that name. Once I was done, I began heading into the jungle. The underground jungle is one of the most lucrative places in the game, even in the end game. It's filled with countless heart crystals and ores and chests and mobs and you get the idea. As I kept on exploring, I found an underground jungle tree, and in the center of the trunk there was a chest which contained an accessory called the Anklet of the Wind. This thing helped my mobility even more, as it granted me 12% more movement speed, so that was pretty cool. My main goal, I think at least, was to get these jungle spores along with stingers dropped by the hornets. If I had enough of each, I would be able to craft a blade of grass, a sword capable of inflicting poison into my enemies. As I continued exploring, I found a wooden room. These rooms are littered all throughout the world, and many of them contain useful things. But this one in particular granted me a sword sharpener. This thing is super useful, especially later on in the game. I'm not the only creature in this world that can have defense. Some of the monsters have it too, and this sharpener allows melee weapons to pierce right through that. Trust me, it's useful. Once I got that, I recalled back to my new bedroom and summoned the eyeball again, just to get more demonite. Once I killed it, I tried to craft a blade of grass, only to realize from the guide that I actually needed 3 vines as well. And I only had 2. The vines are dropped by these things called man-eaters, so once I got the last one, I returned home and crafted the blade of ass. On day 10 with my new blade, I headed into the corruption to smash some more shadow orbs, because if you break 3 of them in a row, you summon another boss called Eater of Worlds, a massive worm that drops shadow scales, which, when combined with demonite, creates even stronger tools and weapons. I used bombs to get to the orb, and when I smashed it, the worm immediately charged at me through the earth. With my sword, I was able to slice right through it, inflicting poison wherever I hit it. Once again, like the Eye of Cthulhu, the worm was pretty easy to kill. Except for the time I nearly died, but we don't talk about that. With the scales, I was now able to craft more demonite things, such as a pickaxe, which could actually break the ebon stone, and the shadow armor. I did run out of demonite though, so I took a quick journey to the corruption to find more. Actually, I lied. Apparently I went to the dungeon first, because I was fairly certain I was strong enough now to beat Skeletron. Killing Skeletron, I would be able to enter this place without being one-shot. I went to the cursed old man who lurked about the dungeon and spoke to him. In doing so, he turned into Skeletron. My theory about being prepared enough was absolutely correct, as Skeletron was even easier than the worm was. As I was fighting, I saw a meteorite falling from the sky towards my land. Once Skeletron was dead, I teleported home and purchased a mini shark from the arms dealer, which would make shooting things a lot more fun. As day 11 was about to begin, I finished crafting my shadow armor set, which gave me a set bonus of even more movement speed. I wanted to be speedy. On day 11, I began to explore the dungeon. The labyrinth started off as a simple one-way descent into hell, but it quickly turned into a maze of different pathways and rooms. My goal for exploring this place was to get a sword called the Muramasa. While here, I found an NPC who was tied up. Once I freed her, she became the mechanic, who I barely used at all during this playthrough, but I used her quite a bit in other playthroughs, so the guide is still more useless, except for the crafting. I actually really like the crafting, but okay. I'm not giving any credit to the guide. He smells. He also doesn't bathe, which is probably why he smells. Day 12 rolled around yet, and I still hadn't found a sword yet, because opening these chests are hard. Normally you can just walk up to them and open them, but these ones need to be unlocked by keys that you randomly find throughout the dungeon. Several minutes later, I had found it and got out of there as soon as I could. I nearly died several times in there, and it's not fun at all. For those of you who play this game, which is probably most of you, should I stop giving these little tutorials? Yeah, I probably should, shouldn't I? My next task was to continue my elevator all the way down to hell to get the Fiery Greatsword. Actually, this sword is not called the Fiery Greatsword anymore. It's been renamed to the Volcano, as I found out. Using the Volcano, combined with my Lightsbane, Muramasa, and Blade of Ass, I can create the Knight's Edge, which is the best sword before hard mode. You get the gist. I'm going to hell, and it's very, very deep. I'm skipping day 13 because hotels do it. And also because all I literally did was mine straight down. I wasn't kidding when I said it was deep. It took until 10 p.m. on day 13 to finally reach hell. And once I found hell, I returned home to create more treehouses for NPCs. I'm very inconsistent when it comes to my goal. I blame TikTok for ruining my my attention span. For Jesus. This brought me into day 14, where I spent nearly the entire day building. I don't quite know why it took so long, but I think my lack of wood had something to do with it. Finally, on day 15, I made my way back down the mineshaft, where I slowly began exploring as safely as I could. I always enjoyed this part of the game, because hell has these pots and chests, which gives very good loot. For some reason though, nearly as soon as I got there, I left again, and then spent the rest of the day looking for the meteorite that landed a few days back. I don't know what's wrong with me. All I need is Hellstone. After searching the entire surface and finding nothing, I knew the game had decided to troll me by making the meteorite either land on a floating island or down in one of the corrupted chasms. Sure enough, the stupid thing was right down smack dab in the bottom of a chasm. and I got to work mining the material very carefully, as this stuff can easily kill you if you get too close. After a few minutes, I finished mining all of it and returned home to craft meteorite bars. I know now what I was doing. I was trying to find floating islands. There are a few tricks to finding these floating islands in your world, but the way I like to do it is with meteor bullets. These bullets can ricochet off of blocks, so if I shoot bullets into the sky and they come back down, that means it hit a floating island. My main goal was to get either a lucky horseshoe or the wings, as they both negate fall damage, which, as you may guess, is extremely important in hardcore. After using this tactic for a while, I was successful in finding a horseshoe, but despite my best efforts, I never did find the wings. I was convinced there were still more islands to be found, but the bullet strategy did not yield them. As day 17 began, a message appeared in chat informing me a goblin army would be attacking my home soon. I was met with hundreds of goblins trying to kill me. By this point though, I had over 300 HP and lots of defense, so this was merely an inconvenience for me. By midday I had killed all of them. After building a couple more houses, I fought the Eye of Cthulhu again for the hell of it. Twice. Now I finally began to return to hell again. It was time to mine Hellstone. There's a problem though. Like the meteorite, this stuff is hellish to mine. See what I did there? Anyway, whenever you mine it, it gets replaced by a lava source. So after a while, I began searching these obsidian buildings for an obsidian skin potion, which is basically like fire resistance. I found a hellforge first, which would allow me to smelt these hellstone bars. And once I found the potion, I began swimming in pools of lava created by the mining of this hellish rock. No pun intended this time. In one of the shadow chests, which you can unlock using a key found in a dungeon, I found the Hellwing bow. This is my favorite ranged weapon in the early game. This, combined with the Hellstone arrows, can kill the wall of flesh super easily, so this was a huge find for me. Eventually my inventory became full though, and I used the Potion of Return to quickly return home, store my items, and then instantly teleport back and continue. I told you, these chests are insane. I continued looting throughout day 19 until I found a Dark Lance, one of the best melee weapons before Night's Edge. By noon, I had collected as much as I wanted to collect for now, and recalled home. My next challenge was actually getting obsidian. Hellstone bars take 3 ore and 1 obsidian, and obsidian is made by pouring water on lava. So I headed back down and used a massive lava pool as my obsidian farm, and I let a whole bunch of water drain down my mineshaft into it. This gave me more than enough obsidian for all the Hellstone tools and weapons. Finally, as the sun began to set, I crafted tons of Hellstone bars. The first thing I made was the armor, since it's the best armor before the Wall of Flesh. Next thing I made was an imp staff. This is a summoner weapon. It spawns in a fiery flying minion to attack things for me without me having to attack anything myself. Next was the pickaxe for the same reason as the armor. And finally, the volcano. This sword is insanely powerful, but more than that, I can now create Night's Edge. I also made a hamax for the same reason as the pick and armor. And I also made a bug net that could capture lava creatures for fishing. Yeah. However, as night fell, a blood moon rose. This changes things a little. Whoa, this sword is cool now. Anyway, I'm gonna go make Night's Edge. Right over here, where the torches are. Night's Edge. It does actually the same amount of damage as the volcano. Bulky. Nice. Oh, this thing looks so cool now. I saw this. They changed the animation of it. Oh, there goes my walls. Once the sword was crafted, I spent the whole night fighting off the Blood Moon, an event where a crap ton of enemies spawn and try to kill you. Now that I had the Night's Edge and Hellstone armor though, there is very little chance of me dying to anything anymore, at least for now. On day 20, I went exploring the underground ice biome, and I have no idea why, so I'm just gonna ignore that and move on. On day 21, I began exploring the underground desert. What I was actually looking for is a mystery. I don't really know. What I do know, though, is that this adventure gave me enough life crystals to max out my HP. I started with 100, and now I have 400. I'm powerful now, Mom. Look, I'm a big boy. I'm gonna shut up. No, I won't, because I'm narrating. This is me literally months later. This video is taking ages to make. What I was actually looking for was the goblin that I literally mentioned right after without realizing that that was the NPC I was looking for. I need him to make reforge my tools to get better prefixes so that they do more damage, and yeah, that's what I was doing. Bye. As day 22 began, I used a new Goblin NPC to begin reforging my tools and accessories. Next up, however, was a task that would prove only partially successful. After you kill the Wall of Flesh, that's when the corruption bombs can begin to spread. So, I decided to contain my corruption bombs by blowing up all the surrounding lands so that I couldn't escape. This process took a very long time, and by the end of day 22, I had contained the first biome, but there were still more out there, so the next day I headed out in attempts to contain these ones as well. Oh look, day 24, I'm still containing stuff. Finally though, I managed to contain 2 out of the 3. As the sun began to set on day 24, I began to contain the 3rd. This one was the one that gave me the most grief, as it was kind of cut in 2 sections by the dungeon. It took me until midday 25 to finally contain it. Unfortunately, all my efforts would eventually prove futile for reasons you will see in a few moments. Yeah, this wasn't great. Before entering hard mode though, I returned to the jungle to quickly fight another boss, Queen Bee. This boss is pretty easy even without the best pre-hard mode weapons, so this took like no time at all. But finally, at 10 PM on day 25, I was descending down the mineshaft to begin my battle against the Wall of Flesh. My first challenge was creating the platform to fight the wall on. If you don't have a platform, you run the risk of just melting in lava. So this took up a decent amount of time. After I finished, I placed campfires periodically along the platform for a small regeneration boost. And day 26 was the day of the wall. After preparing with a whole bunch of potions, I threw a guide voodoo doll into the lava. And this thing kills the guide and summons the Wall of Flesh. I'm shooting at the eyes. I don't know if I think the eyes have less defense than the face. Oh, here we go. I'm still at full health here. I probably overprepared. And you're going down. With the fall of the Wall of Flesh, the ancient spirits of light and dark were released, also known as entering hard mode. This creates a V shape of both corruption and a new type of biome spreading across your world called the Hallow. One side of the V gets the corruption and the other side gets the Hallow. And as luck would have it, the corruption side of the V went straight through the biomes I had already contained, meaning my attempts of containing them proved completely useless. On top of these new biomes, a lot of new enemies can now spawn. The game for me gets infinitely more fun in hard mode. Oh, and apparently I fought the wall again. It's a little, well, Flesh is a little bit easy in casual mode. Clockwork Assault Rifle. What did I get that time? I got a Ranger emblem. The loot from the wall is also pretty cool. You get a Pwn Hammer every time, which is a hammer capable of smashing demon altars, which in turn blesses your world with new hard mode ores. I'll get to that in a second though. Right now, I decided I wouldn't let the corruption win. The V goes from hell to the surface, but I was ready to contain it in any way I could by blowing up either sides of it so it couldn't escape. Also, while doing this, I broke one altar for fun, and the vein of cobalt appeared right next to me, which I subsequently mined. These new hard mode ores were much stronger than Hellstone, so I needed them ASAP. Well, ASAIFCTC, aka as soon as I finished containing the corruption. What the hell did I write that for? This process took much more bombs than the original one, and I frequently had to return to the demolitionist to get more. Bro should give me a discount, man. Oh, and as I was finishing the left side of the slash, I nearly died. Thankfully, I chickened out of there before things got bad. As day 27 came to an end, I was falling down my mineshaft again, where I found the underground Hallow for the first time, so that was kind of cool. As day 28 began, I found a wizard tied up in ropes and freed him. I honestly don't know if I ever used the wizard once, but it was cool. Once I returned to the surface, I had enough Souls of Night to attempt to do something cool. These souls drop from hard mode mobs in their specific biomes, and there was also a different type of soul in the sky I would collect from wyverns. Are they called wyverns or wyverns? I call them wyverns. I think they're called wyverns. Once I had enough of those, I could craft my own pair of wings. But I guess I got sidetracked and went to destroy the rest of the altars, blessing my world with mithril and titanium alongside the cobalt. Anyways, I then went back up to collect more souls of flight. But then when I went to craft them, I realized I didn't have the correct anvil anymore. For hard mode stuff, you need to craft an anvil made of mithril. So after creating a cobalt pick, I went into the mines and collected a whole bunch of cobalt and a small amount of mithril. With the cobalt, I crafted a new set of armor, and on day 29, after getting more mithril, I finally made an anvil and crafted wings, which I used to take to the skies in style. Finally. So naturally, once I could fly, I went underground. Yeah. I ventured to the underground Hallow and began collecting crystal shards. I don't think I ever used these, but they have some useful uses. On top of the shards though, I was also hunting for more mithril. Once I got enough mithril, I returned home and crafted a dull pickaxe. My luck with crafting has been terrible in this world, by the way. I haven't really mentioned it, but I got a lot of terrible prefixes when first crafting stuff. Now that I had the pick, I began mining some titanium. And after mining for a bit, a rune wizard tried to mess me up, but failed miserably, so I stabbed him and took his clothes, cause they looked cool. I returned home and transformed my hell forge into a titanium forge, so that I could actually craft the bars, which I made 36 of. I crafted a pickaxe, and a shameful titanium sword. Remember what I said about the prefixes? Yeah, I threw that sword into a chest and never used it again since it literally sucked. And it also meant I needed more titanium, so back into the mines I go! Oh my god, this is a long day. After running for a while, I decided to go break nearly every single altar in the corruption to get more ore. Doing this used to spawn in random patches of corruption or hallow in your world, but I guess they removed that. So doing this came with very little consequences, besides Wraiths trying to kick my ass. When I got home, I crafted titanium boots and a chest plate. Oh, I also like these repeater things too. They're like automatic crossbows, I guess. However, while exploring, when night fell on the land above me, this message appeared in chat. This was not good. This message means one of the new Hardmode bosses would spawn in regardless of me summoning it or not. That meant that I needed to get home and prepare ASAP. I didn't yet have enough for full titanium, but I did have plenty of potions, so I prepared myself and got ready to fight. The Hardmode bosses are much more difficult than the normal ones, with lots more HP as well, so I knew this wouldn't be easy unlike the first few bosses I fought. Finally, the twins were summoned. These guys are insane. 2 eyeballs connected by a weird bloody vein thingy, named Spasmatism and Retinizer. Spaz shoots cursed flames, and Retinizer fires lasers, and together they had over 5 times the hit points as the Wall of Flesh. I focused on Spaz first as he was the more dangerous of the two, shooting at him with my repeater and occasionally my clockwork assault rifle. These wings made a huge difference in this fight. The fighting was intense but also very thrilling, an actual challenge if you will. However, things started going very poorly. For them. Once I remembered to actually use my potions. I'm such a dumbass. Once I buffed, the fight became more intense as Spaz switched into his second form. Once I finally killed Spaz, I focused on his twin. Retinizer's second form is something straight out of Star Wars. Practically a flying Death Star. Now you see why I had to focus on Spaz first. If I had taken them down at the same time, they would have slaughtered me. I genuinely got quite low here as I began firing quicker and quicker. But finally, with 3/4 of my life gone, I defeated the twins. Out of the many drops these guys dropped, I got 19 hallowed bars, which is the next stage past titanium. Using these, I immediately crafted the Hallowed Repeater, one of my favorite ranged weapons at this stage in the game. I also got 33 Souls of Sight, which I would use later. I spent the better part of the next day finally completing my titanium set, giving me a grand total of 53 defense. And I spent the rest of the day creating even more NPC houses, but I was honestly thinking it was getting a little too crowded here. I would have to do something about this soon. As day 33 began, I headed out to the other side of the corrupted side of the V, along with over 500 bombs. It was time to contain the other half. This went pretty routinely, all things considered. Bombs are certainly a good way to contain the corruption, at least underground. It took 22 minutes to complete the process, or just under a day. Unfortunately, on the surface, which I learned by checking my world map just before day 34 started, the corruption had managed to escape its confines. I guess it could spread through the vines? I didn't really know that. So on day 34, I headed out to where the corruption had jumped the gap and tried to contain them again. I was successful, but not for long. It just kept getting out. As the sun began to set, I headed out to the eastern half of the map, to a desert, with tons of building blocks. I mentioned my home was getting a little crowded, right? And in this game, certain NPCs prefer certain biomes to live in. For example, this desert place I was building was for the arms dealer and the dye trader NPCs, along with the nurse, who seems to like the arms dealer's mega shark, if you know what I'm saying. The houses were quite simple, but also very nicely designed in my opinion. I quite like the look of leaves in this setting. Once I moved the NPCs in, I got the desert pylon. This would allow me to teleport here whenever I was close enough to other biome pylons, such as the forest one in my treehouse. On day 35, I continued this building trend, but this time it wasn't just for NPCs. I wanted to build my house. Luckily for me, the wandering trader NPC stopped by and sold the dynasty wood. This is my favorite wood in the game, and it allows you to create Asian-style builds, which was essentially what I planned to do. After finding a good house on Google, I began to build it near my spawn point to the best of my ability. This thing was gonna be massive, and it took an entire week to build, and an extra day just transporting all my items into my new and improved storage room. But in the end, it was worth it, as I now had a massive home to call my own, and it looked amazing. Shout out to the original builder, whoever it was. On day 43, as I was transporting stuff though, the blood moon rose again. I decided to take this opportunity to go fishing, where I fought many mini-bosses. I mean, I think they're mini-bosses. One nearly killed me too, but one of them dropped this weird-looking hammock, so that was an upgrade. But if a blood moon wasn't enough, as the sun rose, a solar eclipse happened right after. Normally at this stage in the game, I would love this event because it could give me broken hero swords, but I found out those only come after killing Plantera. Maybe it's Golem. I ain't doing research. I did research. It's Plantera. Sadly though, I hadn't killed that plant-looking thing yet, so this was just a pointless event that lasted the whole day. One thing I did manage to get though was a bat wing. So after the event ended, I went into the sky, farmed more souls of flight, finally crafted wings that could take me way higher into the sky than the other wings could. I began day 45 by upgrading my arrows from Hellfire to Cursed. I had plans to defeat the other mechanical bosses and get hallowed armor. My first target was the Destroyer, the mechanical version of the Eater of Worlds. I had learned from my friend of an interesting tactic to kind of cheese the fight, so I wanted to try this. Just so you know, I don't normally do this, and I don't think I ever do it again, but I wanted to try it for myself. I have no clue why this works, but it does, and it's lame. So, yeah, I killed the Destroyer with dynamite. With the loot that dropped, I crafted an Optic Staff, which replaced my imps with little versions of the twins. Then, I crafted Excalibur. This sword was once the best sword in the game, way back in the day. I remember those days, getting home from school every day to hop on Terraria with my friends on Xbox Live. Then they all bought Xbox Ones and left me behind, so I went to a PC to leave them behind. One of those people was the same one who taught me the Destroyer method, by the way. Funny world we live in. One thing I could also make now was something I made a joke about earlier with regards to the arms dealer. A Mega Shark. All I needed was shark fins, so I headed out to the ocean again and farmed. Near noon, on day 46, I finally crafted the gun, only to realize I had absolutely zero ammo for it. So that was funny. I crafted some cursed bullets to go along with the arrows and went about my day, which was spent preparing for the final boss, Skeletron Prime, the mechanical version of, you guessed it, the Wall of Flesh. I had to return to the dungeon to get bones to craft this, but once I did, I waited for night and began the fight. I love the mechanical boss fights at this stage in the game. They're genuinely fun. The Mega Shark worked wonderfully in this battle too, and after a deadly fight which nearly killed me at times, I slayed the final mechanical boss. With this, I had all the materials needed to make a Drax, which, like Excalibur, used to be the strongest pickaxe in the game. However, the night wasn't over yet and I still needed the armor. Guess what? I summoned the twins again! Anyways, I didn't get enough hallowed bars for full armor. So on day 47, I decided to go explore the underground Hallow, coming across some hallowed mimics which actually dropped some pretty good things. I was mainly hunting for souls of light so I could craft more mechanical eyes, or in other words, fight more bosses. I decided to waste time by sleeping in the bed in order to get the night to come along quicker, because when you sleep, I think the game speeds up by 5 times? Anyways, once it became night, I fought the twins once again, and again. Finally, I had enough hallowed bars to make the full set now. And guess what? This armor, like Excalibur and Drax, also used to be the best in the game, if I recall correctly, of course. On day 48, I believe I started what would become a very long ordeal. Whenever I do these Terraria playthroughs, I always try to get the Rod of Discord. It has a 1 in 500 chance to drop from these Chaos Elementals, so if I just hung out here long enough, maybe I'd get one, right? So naturally I decided not to do that anymore, and headed to the jungle. I am very inconsistent in this playthrough, I'm noticing. But what I was doing here is actually important. Once the 3 mechanical bosses are dead, new things start growing in your jungle biome, such as Plantera bulbs, which if you break summons Plantera, life fruits, and chlorophyte. Like the crystals, consuming life fruits permanently increase your HP, up to a total of 100 extra hit points. And chlorophyte is the next stage after Hallow Tools. So throughout day 49, I used Spelunker potions to reveal the location of the chlorophyte and life crystals, gathering as much as I could. It's okay, these ores and plants grow back eventually. Once I got home, I turned all my chlorophyte into over 100 bars. I stored some of the chests for future use, and then used the rest to replace the Hallowed Repeater with a shot bow, which is like a shotgun, but a bow. You know what, that was kind of self-explanatory. Also, I crafted a true Excalibur. This sword, combined with another, creates one of the strongest swords in the game at this stage. I also replaced my Drax with a chlorophyte pickaxe. Next up was the chlorophyte armor. I could have made chlorophyte armor, but there is another set you can craft with chlorophyte that's even better, turtle armor. That's what I had saved the other chlorophyte bars for. All I needed to do was collect 3 turtle shells, which dropped from the giant tortoises in the jungle. Once I had all 3, which took like barely any time at all, I returned to my new house and crafted the set, which brought my defense up from 41 to 71. A huge upgrade. This armor is close to being the strongest in the game defense-wise. Anyways, a blood moon began that night, and I decided that now, on day 50, I would finally create a task wall. Normally, this is one of the first things I do in a 100-day session, but Terraria has so many things to do, it would just become forgotten until now. Halfway through, there were only a few major projects left, such as, of course, beating the game, but other quests involved beating Plantera, Queen Slime, building the other pylon towns, fighting Old One's army, and other stuff. Also, you remember what happened last time there was a blood moon? No? Well, a solar eclipse happened right after again! Ah! I still haven't even defeated Plantera yet, so this was still useless. Besides getting the Death Sickle, which used to be my favorite weapon in the game, at least the night was peaceful. I spent it preparing potions to go finally defeat Plantera. After searching the jungle for a bulb, I used dynamite to blow up a huge area to fight her in. And as day 52 began, I destroyed the bulb. I think the goal with Plantera is to watch out for all the things she shoots. As long as you dodge most of her projectiles, the fight is mainly a test of movement and endurance. Her second phase is kind of insane. You should definitely not ignore the little hand thingies. Once you kill them, it's just like fighting regular Plantera, but faster. After Plantera had fallen, I collected a temple key which would be useful for later. But now it was time for the next stage of my journey. On top of getting a Rod of Discord, I also always wanted to get Master Ninja Gear. It's an accessory that gives me the ability to dash, climb walls, and dodge attacks. But to do this, I need to survive the new dungeon. Once Plantera is killed, it becomes infested with new mobs, which can easily kill you. The mob I was interested in the most, however, was Bone Lee, who dropped 2 of the 3 items I needed for the ninja gear, a tabby and a black belt. So for the rest of the day, I farmed the dungeon trying to get what I wanted. It took quite a while and my health was quite low occasionally. On day 53, I left the dungeon and began to search for the final thing. Tiger climbing claws. The thing with these though is that you can only find them in chests. Thankfully for me, I got very lucky and found the thing I needed after just a few minutes. Alright, we're doing it. I need to go up here, combine these into the tiger claws, and master ninja gear. Oh, dash. The dash is my favorite. Look how far you just instantly change your direction. It's just so good. Now, this game is normally pretty good and fun, but these next 2 days, not so much. Basically, I was trying to find the jungle temple, but after exploring nearly the entire thing, even getting max HP, not to mention nearly dying to Plantera, I just noticed this while looking back at the clip. Oh, what the? I couldn't find it. What's crazy about that is that the temple isn't small at all. It takes up a good portion of the map, even on large worlds. It took me until day 55 to actually find it at the very edge of the jungle biome. But once I found it, I unlocked it with the key dropped by Plantera. This temple was home to the lizard people? Reptiles? Also, I think it might be called Lizard, but it was also home to the next boss I had to kill. But first, I had to navigate this place. This place is littered with traps. So I carefully explored, making sure to break every pressure plate I found, because my pickaxe wasn't strong enough to mine the rest of the blocks yet. I also mined these wooden spikes, which hurt a lot if you get anywhere near them. For my Plantera kill, I also got new minions called pygmies, and these guys were absolutely perfect for this. They cleared up the rooms before I even got to them most of the time. By the time I reached the final room where Golem could be summoned, day 56 had arrived, showing just how slowly I explored this place. But on my way through, I had collected 14 of the thingies to summon Golem. I don't know what they're called. All I had to do was right-click this altar thing. Normally, I prepare with potions, but this time I didn't, so let's see how this goes. The hardest part for me was that ever since the last time I fought Golem, they apparently tweaked his attacks. Before, it used to be if you hit the fist as it was attacking you, it would recoil backwards. Golem's attacks are relatively predictable, so as long as you know when they come, it makes dodging a lot easier. So I relied on my movement and the new ninja gear, which allowed me to quickly change directions without coming to a complete stop, which is kind of the reason why I wanted it so badly. Anyways, I fought Golem again, and again, and again, and one more time, trying to collect all the loot I could, and in particular, beetle husks. These are what create beetle armor. By the end, I had managed to craft 2 out of the 3 pieces, meaning I had to go kill Golem one last time. But before I did that, I also quickly fought Queen Slime by using a crystal found in the Underground Hollow. This fight was easier than the Wall of Flesh, I think. As I returned to the Jungle Temple, I fought Golem one last time, and he dropped the Pick Saw, which, like the Jax, used to be the best pick in the game for a while. I'm noticing a trend here. I used this to collect the Golem altar, as well as mine all the traps that were in here to possibly use at a later date. I also got the Eye of the Golem from the same kill, an accessory that would increase my overall critical strike chance. If I combine this with the right accessories, I can get an insane emblem. But I was missing the warrior emblem to combine with it, so I went to hell and killed the wall again, hoping to get lucky, and I did. I used this, along with 5 of each mechanical soul, to make an Avenger emblem, which I then immediately combined with the Eye of the Golem to create a Destroyer emblem. This thing increased my damage by 10%, which was a huge upgrade. Now, it was time to finally get this stupid Rod of Discord. Returning to the Underground Hollow with dozens of sticks of dynamite, the plan was to create an actual farm where I could easily, well, farm the Chaos Elementals. I spent 3 entire days slowly building the farm by creating a huge hole in the ground and building a spawning platform in said hole with lava below it so mobs couldn't spawn anywhere else. For some reason on day 62, I went and explored the rest of Hell. Why? I literally don't know. Oh wait, no, I know why. I was trying to find... I know why now. I was trying to find battle potions to increase the spawn rates of the farm. I also managed to place a few water candles around my farm, which could also boost spawn rates. I managed to find 3 potions, and each of them lasts 7 minutes, so I spent another day under the influence of battle, I guess? Although it was taking absolutely ages to get the rod, it wasn't due to a bad farm. This thing was actually insanely lucrative beyond just getting the rod. It gave me tons of other drops too. After farming for another 30 minutes, I returned home and worked on brewing more battle potions, which, to my surprise, were actually really easy to brew. I made 23 of them, which gives me 7 times 23. Carry the 12, divide by the circumference of your mother's jewelry, and multiply that by the solar luminosity, and add the 1. 161 minutes of battle potion, which I then used all the way until day 69. Teehee? Day 70 is where everything changed. Another solar eclipse happened, and this time the mini-boss called Mothron could spawn and drop broken hero swords. Before I got the broken hero sword though, I got a pair of Mothron wings, which I believe were much better than my current ones. I also got a deadly sphere minion summoner thing, which replaced my pygmy staff. And finally, with only a minute left of daylight, I got the broken hero sword. At first I was disappointed because I thought you needed more than one, but apparently you don't anymore. All you need is one broken hero sword, the true Excalibur, which I already had, and the second sword which I mentioned, which is called the true Knight's Edge. This is simply crafted out of my old Knight's Edge and 20 of each mechanical soul. This meant I needed to kill Destroyer again because I didn't have enough souls of might. So I crafted the mechanical worm and summoned him. No cheesing the battle this time. Well, as long as you don't count me standing in this tail where my DPS was probably in the thousands. It's amazing how little damage the worm does to me now. I literally just sat inside of it and killed it. That means I can craft a Terror Blade now. So why does it do less damage in true? It doesn't. They changed how it works? Oh, that is gnarly. My dumbass just said gnarly. Sights Goda, what have you done? But now I had the Terror Blade. Guess what, guys? This sword also used to be the best sword in the game. My mood was slightly killed though when I checked my minimap and saw that the entire Eastern Ocean had been corrupted because of my failed attempts to contain it. Oh well. On day 71, I returned to the farm with my new sword and continued my journey on getting the rod. And finally, after just a few minutes, the craziest thing happened. There it is! There it is! Let's go! We got the Rod of Discord. Another one! What the hell? Huh? What? 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 Huh? Okay. What are the chances of getting 2 in a row like that? Isn't it like 1 in 25,000 or something? I hate probability. I have no idea how it works. Okay. Now, I need to take a moment to explain myself. The next thing I do was cheat. What do I mean by that? Well, I did it by accident. Now that I had the Rod of Discord, I knew that the new Shimmer Liquid could transform this Rod of Discord into a Rod of Harmony. But that's all I knew. What I didn't know was that this only works once you've actually beaten the game. So I spent some time on my world looking for the underground pool of shimmer, but to no avail. I then went to another new world to hunt for it again, but once again, to no avail. And as you'll see in the end, there is a funny reason why I never found my pool of shimmer. But after not finding any, I decided to just take it to my main world, where I had shimmer just lying around for decoration. And I threw the Rod of Discord into the pool. Because I had already defeated Moonlord on this world, like 120 times, it transformed my Rod of Discord into the Rod of Harmony. Which means for the remainder of this 100 days, I'm sort of using an illegal transportation device. I will admit, though, other than fast travel, I don't think it ever saved my life any more than the Rod of Discord would have in its place. But it is kind of a shame I didn't do research on it before throwing it into the shimmer. I hope you can forgive me. If not, well, keep on watching? You've already made it this far, I mean, you may as well. Once I had my Rod of Cheats, I began to work on the next goal of mine, defeating the Old One's army. Like the Rod of Discord, this took a large portion of time as well. First, I had to clear out a flat area, then place some things you buy from the Tavern Keep NPC. And once you place the crystal in this altar, you need to defend it from waves of creatures that try to destroy it. At first, I didn't think anything of this. I've defeated this several times in my other worlds. But for some reason, these battles were actually really difficult. I wasn't doing enough damage with my Terrorblade to keep all the monsters at bay, and eventually they destroyed the crystal on the 4th wave out of 7. I have literally never seen the sky change colors like this before. I've never lost an Old One's army before. From then on until day 73, it was attempt after attempt to beat it. Over time, I bought sentries from the Tavern Keep to help me defend the crystal, and I knew I was getting closer when I fought Betsy for the first time. I lost mid-fight, but that told me that if I tried one more time with a few more sentries, this was possible. And on day 74, I decided to take a break, where at some point on my journey, I began the alien invasion. This is probably the hardest event in this game, but also insanely lucrative. I managed to get a UFO mount, which meant I could now fly infinitely. But my main goal was a sword called the Influx Waver. One of my ultimate goals of this video is to get the final endgame sword, the Zenith, which is crafted from like 8 different swords all combined into one. And one of those swords is dropped by this UFO mini-boss. I didn't get it in this event, but I would eventually need to fight these guys again. I also managed to get a pirate map, which summons another event where pirates invade, so I quickly did that one too, fighting off the flying ships and captains with ease. I was itching to try the Old One's army again, but before I did, I reforged my Terrorblade to get the legendary reforge, the best reforge in the game for swords. I also searched the underground desert for a Bass statue, a thing that when placed gives me 5 extra defense whenever I'm near it. Finally, in the late afternoon of day 75, I placed yet another Eternia crystal into the altar, and tried to defend it one more time. Okay, I lied. I placed it, then realized I should probably have campfires here, so I let it die and tried again. No harm done, you know? The difference in damage was incredibly noticeable with the new reforge. The UFO mount helped quite a lot too, as I realized that the sword's magical wave does less damage to mobs if it hits a whole bunch of them on the way. So if I flew above them, I could rain full damage from above. All of these factors, along with the extra sentries, brought me to wave 7 where I faced off against Betsy again. I trusted my sentries to guard the crystal while I fought the dragon. That star just hit him! Yeah, we got this time. Easy. Kind of. Nice. Woo! We just got such good stuff. Luckily for me, Betsy dropped the 2 items I wanted in one single kill. Her wings, and a sword that was even better than the Terrorblade. This sword does nearly twice as much damage as the Terra Blade, and can attack things through walls, so yeah, a substantial upgrade. The wings were also a huge upgrade as well. All of these items are very near to endgame status, and with only 1/4 of my days remaining, I knew I had to act fast in order to complete the rest of my goals. After reforging it to Legendary, the sword did 306 base damage compared to the 145 my Terra Blade did. Also, this may not matter to some of you, but I completed the look of Callum from the Dragon Prince. I got the red scarf and brown wings. Yay! Go watch the Dragon Prince, it's really good. The day was not over yet. Now that I had the flying dragon, I was ready for one of the hardest bosses in the game, Empress of Light. To fight her, you must go to the Hallow at night and kill a prismatic lace swing between nightfall and midnight. Goodbye, little beautiful butterfly. This boss is completely off the charts when it comes to your ability to dodge. It is so important to dodge the Empress's attacks, especially when you aren't on normal mode like I am, where this boss does a lot more damage. Anyway, because of my ability to mostly dodge the Empress's attacks, I defeated her. She dropped a weird sword called a Starlight, but other than that, there was one other thing I wanted, which I couldn't get in normal mode, but I didn't know that. Day 77 is where I began focusing on getting all the swords prepared for the Zenith, starting with the Star Fury, a sword that is found in floating island chests. I used my UFO and flew into the sky, purposefully exploring the entire region, looking for anything I missed with my meteorite bullets, and I actually found several islands that I missed, and one of them had the damn wings I was trying to get. God damn it. Also, I found another one. Once I got the sword, I returned home and fought Empress again. I won't bore you with this. I was trying to get an item I couldn't get. Before the sun rose, I went underground to a mushroom biome to hunt for truffle worms. Dash, 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 dash. Oh god, it's got 6. What? Another boss I wanted to defeat before anything else was Fishron, which is spawned by using truffle worms as bait while fishing in the ocean. So in the 4.5 minutes between midnight and day 78, found the worm and fought Fishron. I also defeated Fishron in that time too. Oh, and I also fought Fishron again at that time as well. How can I be so quick with some things but so slow with others? I fought Fishron a couple more times until I got the Fishron wings as well. I think they look really cool, so I put them in a vanity slot, since I believe Betsy's wings are better. And for the rest of that day, I prepared for the final battle, the grand finale of my voyage to beat this 2D block game. I spent that day along with some time in other worlds collecting materials needed for the strongest potions, which would prove useful. That night, I killed Empress of Light a few more times trying to get that item that didn't exist. Shut up. And on day 79, after brewing even more potions like Life Force and Heart Reach, I headed out to the dungeon where my brethren were worshipping the Celestial Sigil. Once I killed my brethren, I spawned in and tried to end my own life. The Lunatic Cultist is the beginning of the end. A worthy boss in his own right, but simply a pathway to the final boss, Moonlord. Once I defeated myself, 4 Celestial Pillars spawned in my world, each being guarded by creatures from other planets. I would now have to defeat each pillar without dying, and only then would Moonlord spawn, and then I would have to survive him without dying. I started off with the Solar Pillar because in my opinion it's the easiest. If you stay on the ground and don't move, you can pretty easily just kill things from there, especially with the Flying Dragon. Don't use ranged weapons here though, because they can ricochet off the bodies and hit you. Once I killed 100 of these creatures, the shield around Pillar faded and I destroyed it. This gave me solar fragments, which allows you to craft the strongest armor in the game, along with some of the strongest melee weapons. Next up was the Vortex Pillar. The thing with these pillars is that they're each based off a major Terraria class. For example, Solar is for the melee class, which I currently used, Vortex is for ranged weapons like guns and bows, Stardust is for summoners, and Nebula is for mages. I had to be a lot more mobile with the Vortex Pillar. And also, it spawned in my old house! Breh! These pillars are by no means easy, just so you know. I became quite low on several occasions. Next was the Nebula Pillar, which was by far my least favorite one to fight. Finally, right before day 81, I defeated all 4 pillars. As soon as I defeated the last pillar, I returned home and went out to my battle arena. It was only a matter of time before Moonlord spawned now. I gathered my balls and my wits and waited for him to spawn in. Uff. Here he comes, he's gonna spawn right above us. And here we go. This was by far the hardest boss battle of them all. My strategy was to dodge and evade the best I could. Whenever his laser attack happened, I tried to use the Rod of Harmony to get out of the way. Okay. I'm gonna heal right now. Once I killed all 3 of his eyes, I focused on his heart, while avoiding all the different attacks. Come on, die! Die, 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 you bastard! You're going down! 2k help! You're done! Wow! We got Meowmare! We did it! As the credits began to play, I realized I had gotten Meowmare, one of the best swords in the game, and one of the swords needed for the Zenith. I also got a portal gun, Luminite bars, which are the strongest bars in the game, and a weird crystal sentry thing. But I had no time to watch the credits. My buffs were still active, so I went out and repeated the entire process again by defeating myself, defeating the pillars, and summoning Moonlord again. The second battle was actually harder than the first, because I was less cautious this time around. But once again, I brought down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside. Reference. With the Luminite and fragments, I crafted a new pickaxe that was even stronger than Pixaw. Then, I combined 12 of each fragment together to craft my own Celestial Sigil, which I could use to summon Moonlord myself without the pillars. I fought Moonlord 3 times in the same day. That's kinda crazy, but also necessary. I still needed more Luminite, and I also needed a specific sword. On day 81, I finally killed the 3rd Moonlord and began crafting solar armor. I still didn't have enough to craft a full set though, and I still didn't get the correct sword. So I decided to go back to focusing on the rest of them for now, starting with the enchanted sword. This sword is only found in shrines hidden under the surface, and in my opinion, those shrines are way too hard to find. After using my flying dragon to light up the world below me, I finally spotted a 1-block wide tunnel that went down. I followed it, and it led me into the shrine. Next up, I focused on the Seedler and Beekeeper, which are drops from Plantera and Queen Bee respectively. I got the Beekeeper first by mere chance, and after many attempts, I got the Seedler from Plantera as well. Remember when these bosses used to be hard? Next up, I got pumpkin seeds from the Dryad and waited for them to grow. Once I had 30, I crafted the Pumpkin Moon Medallion. One of the swords I needed was from an event called the Pumpkin Moon, which would spawn waves of spooky enemies, one of which drops a sword called the Horseman's Blade. Literally at midnight, I got the blade and continued fighting until sunrise. Also, something to note, I'm not cheating anymore with the Rod of Harmony. Yay! Anyways, I found a very good spot for the UFO probes to find me. I don't know what it was about this island the Martian probes liked so much, but I ain't complaining. However, what I am complaining about was the time it took to get this sword. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Martian invasions before I actually got the influx waiver, which I think is like a 1 out of 6 chance. And there's like 4 of these UFOs per event, maybe 5. You know, I just got very unlucky. But now, all I needed was the Star Wrath, the Moonlord drop. I was honestly kind of dreading this, because the Star Wrath is only a 1 in 9 chance to drop from Moonlord. So killing multiple Moonlords again was something it seemed like I was going to have to do, and Moonlord still isn't exactly easy. I would also need to fight the Pillars again, because I didn't have any more fragments. I defeated myself, fought the Pillars, and summoned Moonlord for the 4th time. This fight actually was easy for some reason, and I guess the game is trying to apologize to me for not giving me the influx waiver, because I got the sword I wanted on the first try. Yes! Oh, it's over. I've won. Copper Short Sword, Terra Blade, Star Fury, Meowmare, Enchanted Sword, Seedler, Beekeeper, Horseman's Blade, influx waiver. Where do I make it? Is it here? There it is. There it is. The best sword in the game by far. Now that I had the Zenith, well, it was practically game over. Absolutely nothing could kill me now unless it one-shot me. To prove this, I decided to see just how quickly my new legendary Zenith could defeat Empress of Light. Bruh. There's nothing left that can— what the hell? Not even close. I then spent 2 days using a contaminator to cleanse the parts of my world where the corruption had escaped. You buy this thing from the steampunk, by the way. I still had 15 days left though, so I began to finally build those NPC towns I was talking about. I started off with the mushroom biome because I actually didn't have the truffle NPC yet. I went into an underground mushroom biome and collected a whole bunch of seeds and actual mushrooms, went to a sky island and began to build a giant mushroom big enough to hold 2 NPCs, the aforementioned truffle and the guide, whom the truffle likes, and therefore sells a pylon when around him. Next up, I built the ocean pylon as well by creating a small oceanside cottage for the pirate, stylist, and angler. Before building more though, I wanted the best mining device in the game, the infamous drill mount. To do this, you need, let's see, 40 meteorite, 40 hellstone, 40 spectre bars, 40 shermite bars, 40 chlorophyte, and 40 luminite, which meant I had to kill Moonlord again. So I did. With the Zenith, though, killing Moonlord was an absolute breeze. Then I had to do the pillars again to fight Moonlord. Yeah, the grind is real for this thing. The thing with all this, though, Shermite and Spectre bars both take chlorophyte bars to craft, so I had to get a lot. Throughout day 88, I went to the dungeon to collect ectoplasm. Finally, on day 89, I crafted the drill containment unit. The plan was to use this to mine out a huge underground area in the snow biome to make the pylon village there, but I decided to simply build cozy little cabins next to a pond instead, which I finished during a blood moon that night. The drill mount was still very nice to have though, and I'll use it again later. On day 90, I went and created the underground pylon next, constructing a cute little town deep in the earth for the goblin, mechanic, and demolitionist. Once all these towns were done, I decided to give my old one's army arena a makeover. A massive makeover. So from then on until day 92, I constructed a Colosseum style thing, I think. I really like it, especially the vines wrapping around the stone. Next up though, I still needed to get some NPCs. I started off with a tax collector, which you get by using purification powder on a tortured soul in the underworld. I also used my contaminator to remove all the corruption from the surface. That process of removing the corruption continued, because the next thing I knew, I was beginning to cleanse all corruption from my world. I had previously contained most of it within the giant V, so that made it very easy to just dig down the V, spray the solution on either side of me, dig another tunnel down, and repeat that process all the way to the underworld. This process took many days of repetitive work, but by the end of it, all of my corruption was gone completely, leaving the Hallow with free reign to do whatever it wanted to do. But now that I was done that, there wasn't much left to do really. I tested my new arena for the old one's army and it worked pretty damn well. Well, maybe it wasn't so much the arena, but my Zenith. This sword is absolutely ridiculous. I killed Betsy in under 7 seconds. There was still one thing I wanted to do though, something I had been wanting to do from the start. If you watch the Dragon Prince, you'll know that my character's appearance is based off a dude named Callum. But Callum is a mage, not a meleeist, so I began working on changing my class from a meleeist to a mage. To get started, I needed nebula armor, which requires luminite. So, Moonlord. Not only that though, I needed the endgame magic weapons like the Nebula Arcanum and the Last Prism. I was out of celestial fragments, so pillars. And after a quick accessory change to boost my magic power rather than my melee, the transformation was complete. I tested out my new magical prowess on the Golem. And I'd say I'm a pretty decent mage, I think. I wouldn't really want to use this on Moonlord, I'd probably die. And on day 99, I took one last look around at my world, looking at all of my creations. I had done it. After several attempts, I had survived 100 days in hardcore Terraria. But you may notice a small issue here. This is day 99, not 100. That's because I got my math wrong. So on day 100, I decided to do one last thing. We're trying to get down to the place where I was digging, looking for the shimmer biome, because I was incredibly close. Where this tunnel is, right there where my mouse is right now, there's a shimmer biome, and I completely missed it, and I'm so annoyed. Yeah, right in here is the shimmer biome. I thought it had to be in the place with the glowing background, or the glowing stone, the moss stone. Anyway. Now it's about to be day 100. And with that, now I had survived 100 days in hardcore Terraria. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, like the video. Wait, yeah, do that. Also, subscribe, please. Maybe 30K soon? Maybe? And, outros. Goodbye.